Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a few of my Patreon pals for another little YouTube hop. Each month on Patreon, I invite my friends to try a variety of creative challenges, and today we are all using the October Sketch Challenge. Right, this is the sketch that we're working with, and I'm obviously going to do a spread of my October daily. I'm also going to be using the freebie printables that I create each month for my Patreon members, and these are some of the October ones. So I've pulled them out, as well as a few other kind of little coordinating bits and pieces. And I am going to stick pretty faithfully to the sketch this time. I am doing a double page spread in my album, which is the first time I think this month that I have done a double page. And it's literally just because I love the way this sketch looked and I really wanted to stretch it out rather than shrink it onto a 5 by 8¼ page. So I've trimmed down 2 base cardstocks just from white cardstock, because I knew that I was going to use these printables, and we actually went to see the Dracula's stage show the night before I recorded this video. I had to make this page straight away. I knew it was going to be kind of dark and red, and I wanted to lighten things up a little bit by using some white cardstock. I'm also going to do a little bit of stamping, and I really wanted that to stand out on the white. So the first thing I did was pick out my background paper, and I've decided to go with this black and white stripe. It's very bold, but I kind of want the red of my photo to stand out on top of that. And I trimmed it down a little bit. I've printed all of my printables out at 5 by 8¼ so I've just trimmed it down, I think, to about 6½. Just so it's a bit more in proportion with my double page spread. And then to create my little fold over piece, I used a couple of 3x4 cards. The first I glued directly behind the corner of the background cardstock, so that when I fold it over, it's got this pretty purple cloud pattern rather than just the white of the back of my printable. And then behind there, I put it in exactly the same place, another one of the 3x4 cards with the red, orange, rainbow stripe, so that is what you are peeking as the page folds over. Now, I did rough up the edge of that entire piece with my distressing tool, and then I made sure that I adhered that corner down so it's not going to flip back up again with just a couple of tiny attacher staples. Now, I've got this kind of interesting color scheme going on. It's not really one that I've used before, like the black and the red and orange with a little bit of purple mixed in. I kind of really like it though, so I want to make sure I add a little bit more purple just to make sure it's being purposeful. So I used that same cloud pattern to mat my photo. I did pop the photo up on some foam tape though, just to give it a little bit of dimension. The page doesn't have a whole lot of dimension in it, but that fold over piece, I haven't squished that flat, so there is a little bit of dimension in there, and then adding the little bit of foam just kind of helps match that. For my next sort of portion, I really wanted to make sure that those background cardstock pieces just stayed together, so I added a little bit of washi tape onto the back of them just so that I can use it as one, because I'm about to do some splatter stamping. I didn't quite feel brave enough to get into the cardstock with some actual splatters, so I am using a stamp set. I'm using a couple of different splatter stamp sets. I've had a real phase of them this year, so I've amassed quite a collection, and I'm using a couple of different inks. I didn't want to go just straight in with the like blood red splatters. It can, I don't know, look a bit gruesome, I guess. So I used kind of a darker orange first and then added a little bit of red on top. And I'm just going to keep playing with that. I'm picking 3 sort of spaces to do that. I'm going to add a few little individual sets as well, and then pop my sort of my main pattern piece back on, just to make sure that I don't need to add any extra little pieces as well. And then I can get on with the embellishing, which is going to be pretty simple. I think, to be fair, the layout, the kind of color scheme speaks for itself, and the photo really does become the focal point of my page. So I'm not going to add too much in the way of embellishment. Once I've got this all adhered down onto the page, I'm going to add a couple of extra little bits of paper, and then maybe I think I add a label. So part of the printables, there's a whole bunch of labels. I know I'm not the only one who appreciates having matching labels for my printables each month. And then I'm really just going to play it with a few stamps. And that's really going to be it. It is a very simple page. I just love how graphic it is. One of my favorite things about our little community is seeing how everyone interprets these challenges. So please make sure that you check out the links to the other videos below in the description box. So you can see I'm just adding in very minimal kind of papers. I am using that same striped card. It came in a paper as well, so I'm using that just so that the colors all match, and really from sheer laziness, so I don't have to go digging through my stash to try and match everything up. I am covering up more of my splatters than I probably really intended that I would, but never mind, it still works. I do want to make sure though that I'm getting a balance of the kind of reds and oranges with that purple as well. So I don't want the purple to kind of fade too much into the background against the boldness of those brighter oranges. So I want to make sure there's little bits of that kind of lavendery purple in there as well. Now my main embellishment for this page is some punched paper stars. At the start of the month, I think at the start of last October, I had used a little punch, and I had a metal die with some stars, and I die cut a whole bunch of black and silver stars. And I didn't use even nearly half of them last year, so I've still got a stash for this year. But I did go ahead and use some dies that I got last December to create some kind of slightly larger stars in there as well. And that's what I'm using today. So they're in the black. They are just cardstock. It's nothing dimensional. It's not fancy. I placed them in the same sort of 3 areas that my splatters are in, and then went ahead and adhered them all down with a little bit of liquid adhesive. I'm not going to make you watch me do that because it was a little bit tedious. And then I'm going to go in with my title. So I'm using these thickers. I'm not sure what collection they're from. My friend Alice gifted them to me last year, but I love them because they are black and they're not super glittery, but it's kind of a black textured glitter top, but the foam of them is orange, so it's perfect for this layout. You get just that tiny little kind of glow of orange. They're not super in your face, and I love that that black really stands out against that striped background. I am going to add to my title and add a little bit of journaling in there underneath, but I just wanted to grab a couple of these Heidi Swap stamp sets and just add just a few little stamped details in here. So I've got this very large label that my stars were on, and it gave me an ideal space for adding a couple of these spooky little sentiments. And then, of course, if I've added one, I have to add 2 more, just that like visual triangle kind of rule. It's what I always sort of try to adhere to. It doesn't always necessarily work. In this case, I've got 2 sentiments that are purple, and the 3rd sentiment that I will pop in ends up being orange. So it's slightly different, I guess, but it's still there. It's still my rule of 3. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with this little skull and crossbones stamp. I added that in, and then I realized I had a teeny tiny version as well. So I added a couple of those in there too. So you can see here my 3rd stamp, I was just trying to work out where I had to put it on the block to be very careful not to squish down my folded area. And I'm going to stamp that red onto the orange stripe. And then that's pretty much it for the whole page. I'm going to add a little bit extra to the title using some orange little puffy sticker alphas. Oh so wicked. The show was wickedly funny. I really enjoyed it. I first saw Dracula's when I was a teenager over on the Gold Coast, and so it was really nostalgic to have them show up in my hometown and be able to take Shane along to share it with him as well. I have typed out some journaling on some vellum. I've just torn that to give it a little bit of texture. I can whip that through my Xyron machine and then adhere that onto my pattern paper and call this layout all done. I had so much fun working on this sketch, and I've already seen the gorgeous creations that my crafty friends have come up with. So make sure that you hop along and see for yourself. Their links are in the description box below. And if you feel like you want to join in our crafty little community on Patreon, the link is down there as well. We would love to have you. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to leave a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.